The Parliament of Lesotho has declared an end to the current ruling coalition of 4 parties, thereby rendering the Prime Minister Thomas Thabane now remaining as a caretaker Prime Minister until His Majesty the King Letsie receives the name of a new duly nominated Prime Minister. We are now joined via Skype by a correspondent in Lesotho Rapelang Radebe. Rapelang, a very good afternoon to you, and thank you as always for joining us.
Hi, Flo. Good afternoon to you too.
Now, of course, we're hearing that the Prime Minister, Tom Thabane's coalition, has fallen apart. But judging from a video that went viral just yesterday of a very jovial First Lady, we would have thought that things would have been completely different for the Prime Minister. What happened in Parliament today?
Yeah, I think the process that has been taking place for quite some time ultimately came to unfold now. You will remember that Lesotho has been troubled by going to elections almost every 2 years, the snap elections, because there was an option that if the vote of no confidence is passed to the Prime Minister, he can opt to go to His Majesty to now declare that he's no longer in charge of Parliament, and therefore requests for snap election to get a fresh mandate from the voters. But now what happened is in the past few weeks, an amendment, the 9th Amendment was done, declaring that the Prime Minister can no longer unilaterally be able to go to His Majesty to call for snap elections. Now, what happens also is exactly what followed. A new coalition was formed inside Parliament, and therefore declaring that the existing coalition of 4 parties falls apart. It means they now have the power to appoint a name of a successor of Prime Minister Tom Thabane. Of course, his party, SABC, remains the majority in government, and therefore gets the first option to nominate who the successor of the current Prime Minister is. We will know that he had already declared that he wants to retire, and I think this is what sparked and fast forward the instruments that are in place to see him leave earlier.
Yeah, we are seeing, Rapelang, some dates being thrown about when this will then happen. We're being told that by the 22nd of May, he will then say he's done and then he will step down. So take us through the process then in Lesotho. From that point, what happens is we know that there is His Majesty who must then put his stamp on approval on the next candidate or the next Prime Minister. What then happens from that point? And is the 22nd of May the date indeed that he is set to indeed step down?
I think we will appreciate that the event that unfolded today has completely overtaken. He's now overtaken by circumstances. That means now the Parliament gets to dictate how things will go from now on. He had intended an intention to retire, but there was confusions of days as to when, but we knew that he said the latest would be the 31st of July. But his party wanted him gone as soon as possible. Of course, it is divided into 2 parts. There are others who would want him to complete his term of election, which is until 2022. But the others wanted him gone as soon as yesterday. Now, following slight confusions as to whether it will be the 31st of May when he is leaving office, or whether it would be end of September or end of July, beginning of September, the events that unfolded today says he is now officially just a caretaker Prime Minister. That means he is to issue or tender his resignation. Somebody was suggesting as early as today, the latest tomorrow. But we know that as things stand, the Parliament has now adjourned for the new coalition to actually consider and offer a tender a new name of the incumbent Prime Minister. And we were expecting that this week, such announcement will be done, and the latest in 10 days' time, there's a possibility that a new cabinet will be sworn in, and we are likely to have a new Prime Minister in a near future.
Now, Rapelang, we know that Tom Thabane had had been under pressure in any case to resign over a case in which he and his current wife are suspected of conspiring to murder his ex-wife. Do you have details as to what's happening with that at the moment? I know it's a bit tabloidy at the moment, but it has caught a lot of attention of many people as to where are we going with this case. I mean, we're seeing videos of the First Lady very jovial in yellow wigs, doing all kinds of things. So it doesn't seem like someone who's in trouble at this point. So can you bring us into what's actually happening? Are they going to get away with it if indeed they did commit this crime? And what is happening with that case at this time?
You are right, Flo. It is a bone of contention, and it is an issue of high interest, I think, to the whole world to see what will happen. At this point, you'll know that he was the Prime Minister interdicted the process that just before he was about to be officially charged. The question was for the higher court to now determine as to whether the incumbent or the sitting Prime Minister can actually be taken to court. And then what happened was that I think because of the COVID-19, there was certain processes that slowed down the process. But what we know is that that case will soon be going to court by a higher court, which is the court of not the court of first instance, which is the higher court, because he was at the magistrate court. Now, as soon as it makes a determination as to whether the incumbent or the ruling Prime Minister can actually be taken to task, taken to court, that is the decision to be made. But of course, things change as of today because he is now, I doubt he can now claim the same privilege as a Prime Minister, because as things stand, he's now a caretaker coach. So we don't know how that determination will come. But as we know, he is still expecting the higher court to determine whether an incumbent or a sitting Prime Minister can actually be sued, especially the case that is at hand. It's a case of crime, actually a case of murder. So it needs the interpretation of the higher court.
Now, what does this all mean for the stability of Lesotho? I mean, on the ground, the general feel for the general public. What is it like? I mean, as you mentioned correctly, every couple of years we do hear of some sort of instability in Lesotho. I mean, our very own president at some point was intervening in Lesotho. So what is it like really in Lesotho? Does this have any effect really on the people on the ground?
Yeah, I think it's really worth mentioning that the interventions of the neighbor South Africa, to some extent, actually helped expedite the process, sort of overseeing the process as things unfold. We know in the past that the military or the security agent had been quite instrumental, but for the first time this time, this is a political activity that has no ulterior motives or any influence from the security cluster. The question you are asking regarding how Basotho are looking at it, a few that I've spoken to, their main concern was that they are worried about the size of cabinet that is likely to unfold as a result of a new coalition. You will understand these are now the two biggest parties in Lesotho, while others are actually appreciating and applauding that maybe the two biggest parties are the ones who are likely to form the new trajectory as to where Lesotho is going to go. They are also worried that the size of the cabinet, looking at the very weak and volatile economy of Lesotho, this might be an opportunity for others to now create posts. But to a few that I've spoken to who are in parliament, they say it will be their task. They will make sure that this is not a free-for-all. The parliament, one was actually saying they would prefer to see the current positions at worst. At best, they would want to see a reduction. Remember, there was a time where you have a deputy minister in twos, a deputy of a deputy minister, something that Basotho were actually saying it is unacceptable.
Yeah. Thank you so very much, Rapelang, for giving us that update. We appreciate your input here on SA Today. Thank you.